if Pittsburgh loses out, what are you doing as the Pittsburgh GM? Because the offense struggles. I don't know if you saw, but Trubisky is officially benched. They're doing Mason Rudolph, which I think is a mistake. But you obviously have very big issues on offense. The offensive coordinator's not it. You don't really have a quarterback because I don't believe they truly believe in Kenny Pickett. Like, what is your action this offseason?
I think like you can say about a few teams right now and this is what's so hard about where the Steelers are at, because you really can't even say it because the way the Steelers have been, the way the Steelers are built. But I think I'm starting to see that Steelers fans are kind of coming to my same consensus, my same point of view here. And I didn't really start thinking this till very recently. But to an extent, this is kind of one of those times you got to blow some stuff up to rebuild. I mean, you really do. Again, you got you have star defenders that are at peak value. And if you're a Steelers fan, you're going to tell me, fuck no, we can't trade them, because they've been your identity for so long.
Right.
But I'm just being honest with you. If the Steelers have any chance in the immediate future of going on a Super Bowl run, they are going to have to ship out some high-value guys to get high-value draft capital, because they have been consistently good enough to not get a high draft pick, but then consistently not good enough to win anything serious. They're right in that, like, that same territory that I feel like that the Hornets were for so long. The NBA would be a good example, like to compare them to even a whole other sport here. But you know what I'm saying? They're hanging around, barely making the playoffs, they're hanging in there. But then to transition over to, it's like some Steelers fans think fire Tomlin. I'm not at all on that side of things. I'm on the side of the Tomlin's been trying to hold together a falling together ship for way too long. Let's give Tomlin some new wood. Let's give him some new nails. Let's let him start building a new ship that actually has a chance to sail, instead of having him try to repair a ship that's literally sinking every single year further.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate. He's the one that kept Canada around for so long when it obviously wasn't working.
He defended him multiple times.
I don't think Mike Tomlin should be fired. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. But when you are a guy who is more willing to take on head cases, and those head cases continually flare out, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Like George Pickens.
This is the one thing of the game that needs to be talked about, because George Pickens is a very polarizing case. I'm going to say it. What it is that it sucks, because he's so talented, and I want to root for him. Like, you want to root for a guy like George Pickens. You're like, when you see the fun side of him, the talented side, you're like, I want to root for this guy.
Right.
But then he goes and pulls these stunts where it genuinely makes it hard to root for a guy like that. Because then again, I'm going to be clear, from his point of view, I totally understand. Yeah, George, you're frustrated. You're tired. You feel like you're putting out these reps for what? For what? The season's over. The QB situation sucks. But sometimes that's the thing, is in life, like, things don't go your way all the time. And it's like, also, if you don't show up with max effort when it's not going your way, it speaks volumes, because that says you only want to do well when it's convenient for you. You don't want to show up when it's not convenient for you. And in the NFL, that doesn't work. Like, you have to show up whether it's convenient for you or not. You got 52 other guys count on you. It's a terrible look for not only the Steelers regime to look at you, but everyone else looks at these reps too, and then you're losing value everywhere. It's just, you're hurting yourself and your team. It's just hard to see.
Third receiver. You have Claypool, Antonio Brown, George Pickens. Like, obviously these guys are all not of the same caliber. But what also another thing you have to look at is, regardless of the offensive struggles, the Steelers have always been a good competitive team. So it's like, you may want out until you're on a team that's 3-14. And then you really don't know what you're missing. Then you really know what you're missing.
I was gonna say, that's part of the problem, is he's acting like they're not still right there in the thick of things, even though we know what they are. But when you're playing pro football, you shouldn't be thinking of the what ifs and what. You should just be out there playing and for your boys. I feel like there's too much going on in his head.
Yeah.
All
right. Trading TJ Watt right now. He's on pace for another sack title. Possibly he's got 16 on the year. If you traded TJ Watt in the offseason, what are you netting?
See, that's where it gets interesting, is because TJ is also getting old enough that I feel like that's where it sucks, is you wouldn't be garnering, probably even where you feel like you're garnering enough. But then it's, on the other hand, you hold on to him, and if you don't make a Super Bowl run, you just wasted the years. So not wasted, but
I know what you're saying.
it sounds bad, but you didn't maximize the years. And it's like,
He's also been someone that's injury prone. So I feel like if he has another major injury, it's kind of like that might put him away, kind of like JJ with the back and all that stuff,
like,
you know?
I think you might be able to garner a high second, late first, like maybe from a really contending team and then some later capital. And hey, my evaluation might be off because TJ Watt is like, let me be clear, I'm not a fucking fool. He is one of the greatest players in the entire NFL. There's not a debate about it. But like we're saying, age, injury concern, they go into these valuations, especially with first round picks, second round picks. Like, those are worth a lot to guys because they say to themselves, I could get me another guy like a TJ.
Yep.
So it's tough. I don't really know where the valuation would be. And from the Steelers' perspective at that point, that's where it's almost like the time would have been before, but the Steelers were still competitive enough before that you weren't ready to do anything like that yet. Like, this wasn't even in question until now.
Right.
That's why they're in a kind of a bleak, more of a bleak window now.
Well, the team they were playing, they are not in a bleak window. They're anything but. I mean, you might have the coach of the year in Shane Steichen and making the playoffs in a loaded AFC with a backup quarterback, which seems to be the situation for a lot of these AFC teams here. I mean, the Colts just continue to impress.
I mean, it's so impressive. And what I wanted, my thing I really want to talk about with this game is, I want Dan Campbell to win Coach of the Year, a Coach of the Year. Like, I would love to see that. Seeing Dan up there, after everything we know, we love that, right? But I think this year, I'm sorry, like, if I'm out there voting, I probably am giving my vote to Shane Steichen because what he's done this year this is unbelievable. Truly, this would have been like if Dan Campbell took the Lions to the playoffs last year. We were close. It's kind of like that's the thing. So it's like, what I'm saying is it's like maybe not this year for Dan. I think this year Shane is doing what no one else has done in a long time. Like, he really took a team that we thought was going to have 3-4 wins, potentially to the playoffs. And I was looking at the Colts schedule. They really have a chance to finish with 11 wins this year. Like, truly, the Colts could be an 11-win team.
If I'm a Colts fan, I'm super excited for next year.
It's like, and that's the thing. Let me be clear. And I'm not saying that Minshew is at this point is turning into an above average quarterback. Like, he actually is playing good football.
Right.
But the point is that Minshew doesn't maximize the team. So it's like when you're playing with like this with Minshew, I mean, you have got to be so ecstatic for everything that Shane and his offense is going to offer you.
You're playing without the number 4 pick in the draft that you had this year. Like, you're playing without your franchise guy that you just drafted, and you have a winning record possibly going into the playoffs. I
mean, no, it's absolutely insane. And another thing about this, I think what makes Shane Steichen so impressive, the whole run he's going on here, is that the running back situation all year has been so volatile. And you get a game where Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson come out of nowhere, explode for 157 combined rushing yards. Like, the team is the definition of continuity without continuity. Like, it doesn't matter who's out there. We are going to have the same result most of the time. And even if it's not the same, you're going to still see the same identity of this team. Even when they're playing teams that are better than them, the identity is the same. You see the vision of the future. You just got to love to see it for the Colts.
Samson Ebukam.
Samson Ebukam is one of the better. He's turning into one of the better edge rushers in the league right now. And it's funny because, coming from the Niners, he was productive over there, but now he's turning into a full-blown low. Like, no, you got to really pay attention to Samson off the edge. 9.5 sacks on the year. Huge part of that defense. Tons of pressures. Tons of hurries. Samson Ebukam's getting after it.
Colts are a huge surprise this year in the AFC.